member of the board may be removed by the president for neglect of duty or malfeasance in office, but for no other cause.
The National Labor Relations Board is the body that is tasked with enforcing the National Labor Relations Act. The National Labor Relations Act covers all private sector workers, including workers at the U.S. Postal Service. All private sector workers, minus some small businesses and people who work on the rails. People who work on the rails are governed by the Railway Labor Act, but if you don't work on the rails, you don't work for a railroad or anything like that. Or airlines. Exactly. Or airlines. And you're in the private sector, then you are governed by the National Labor Relations Act. The agency tasked with enforcing the National Labor Relations Act is the National Labor Relations Board. Okay, so obviously, the composition of the National Labor Relations Board is very important to seeing the competent competent enforcement of that law. You want to see people that are sympathetic to working people rather than employers at the head of that agency, because if you have people that are more sympathetic to employers, then they will maybe just not enforce the law. And we have seen that happen over the years. We have seen it happen that the rights that the American people have to form a union have been successively eroded by bad National Labor Relations Boards. Okay, and so last week we saw, and under Trump's first administration, you can go back, Jacobin and the Economic Policy Institute and some other places have really good rundowns about how Trump's National Labor Relations Board in his first term undermined the rights of working people. It's a very, very important agency. We have in this country a right, an affirmative right to form a union. It is illegal for an employer to fire you for your union advocacy. Okay? But that right doesn't mean anything if it is not enforced. So if we do not have an agency that will enforce this right, then the right effectively does not exist. So, that's why it is so troubling that last week Donald Trump removed Jennifer Abruzzo from the general counsel position of the National Labor Relations Board. The general counsel is the office within the National Labor Relations Board that is responsible for picking cases to bring to the board to decide, right? And Jennifer Abruzzo is widely seen as being the most pro-worker general counsel of the NLRB in a very long time. She was ousted by Donald Trump last week. That was expected. That is his right to do under the National Labor Relations Act. Joe Biden did the same thing when he came in. He immediately removed Peter Robb, who was Trump's first general counsel of the National Labor Relations Board. Peter Robb, it's worth noting, was an architect of the firing of the Patco strikers under Ronald Reagan, which, if you're a student of history, you'll know that Patco is stands for the Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization. Something like that. It was the Air Traffic Controllers Union. They went on strike under Ronald Reagan because the problems that we are seeing, and that almost certainly led to the crash that we saw last week, the problems that we are seeing today with the severe understaffing at the FAA began under Ronald Reagan. And so that's a worthwhile thing to point out. But that was expected, that he was going to fire Jennifer Abruzzo, and Biden did the same thing. What was not expected was the firing of Gwen Wilcox. Gwen Wilcox was one of the board members at of the National Labor Relations Board, a Biden appointee, pro-union person. She was legal counsel for the Communication Workers of America, if I recall correctly. This was not expected because it is explicitly forbidden by the National Labor Relations Act. Matt Brunig, a labor attorney, former attorney at the NLRB, and the person behind NLRB Edge, where he follows NLRB cases and stuff like that. He wrote a piece on his Substack about this, where he quotes Section 3A of the National Labor Relations Act that states that, quote, any member of the board may be removed by the president upon notice and hearing for neglect of duty or malfeasance in office, but for no other cause.
Hey, 5 seconds, just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
And the email has been made public that was sent to Gwen Wilcox and Jennifer Abruzzo with their firing, saying, here's part of it. Oh, no, sorry. The email, here's part of it. Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution vests the entire executive power in a single president who alone is accountable to the people. Pursuant to my constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, U.S. Constitution Article 2, Section 3, I must ensure that those who wield executive power on my behalf are held accountable. The aims and purposes of the administration with respect to the work on the board can be carried out most effectively with personnel of my own selection. To that end, effective of this date, Gwen Wilcox and Jennifer Abruzzo are hereby removed from their offices. And so Matt Brunig says that this move is consistent with the conservative legal theory that has become popular over the last couple of years. That theory, discussed in a prior NLRB Edge post, points to the language in Article 2 of the Constitution that requires that the president shall take care, blah, 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 and argues that the removal protections for NLRB members and administrative law judges are unconstitutional. That's also part of the case that Elon Musk and others have before the federal courts. So this is a very concerning development and could very well spell the end of law enforcement of the NLRA in the United States, because now the NLRB does not have a quorum, so they cannot hear cases. Now, that doesn't mean that elections can't still happen, but any time that something is appealed to the board, it cannot be decided. And so that puts all sorts of stuff in limbo, gives employers an easy way to stall cases, and it's just overall not good. And because, and you might be surprised by that if you were a baby brain and you believed that Trump cared about catering to unions and working people and making sure that our rights are protected. It's been very frustrating seeing some refusal to call this out by at least Sean O'Brien, who was asked about it on the Young Turks and somehow was able to maneuver that question into an answer that laid blame both on Democrats and Republicans, but primarily on Democrats. I mean, that was just a really bizarre kind of thing. And then he moved from there to praising Trump for nominating Lori Chavez DeRemer for Department of Labor. It was an absolutely insane reaction to the question, to this completely unprecedented unprecedented act by a president, and totally lacking from Sean O'Brien. Does not meet the moment. Does not meet the moment.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.